Mr. Speaker, for the purposes of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to my good friend, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purposes of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Rules Committee met and reported a rule for consideration of 2 very important measures. First, the resolution provides for consideration of Senate amendments to H.R. 244, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2017. The rule provides for 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the Chair and Ranking Member of the Appropriations Committees. In addition, the resolution provides for consideration of the FY 2017 Intelligence Authorization Act as an amendment to the underlying bill. Mr. Speaker, the appropriations package in front of us is the first successful bicameral bipartisan negotiation of the Trump administration. It has broad bipartisan support in both houses of Congress. All members can feel good about the work of the Appropriations Committee, especially our chairman, Mr. Frelinghuysen of New Jersey, and our ranking member, Ms. Lowy of New York. In the House, the work must continue today, but hopefully will be concluded today. The package in front of us not only keeps the government open and operating through the end of the fiscal year, but it also represents the successful completion of key member priorities on both sides of the aisle. This bill provides for a $25.7 billion increase in defense spending, notably including an additional $7.3 billion for Department of Defense readiness and training, as well as the largest pay raise our troops have received in 6 years. These funds will help us enhance our military readiness and marks an end to the erosion of our national military strength. Importantly, we accomplished this without a dollar-for-dollar increase in non-defense discretionary spending, a practice which was imposed upon us by the previous administration. That practice threatened to drive our national deficit ever higher. I am pleased that we broke that connection, for we should never operate under such a formula in the future. This measure also provides for an increase of $1.5 billion in funding for border security. $772 million is available for key administration priorities like border security technology, enhancements, and infrastructure improvements. It also increases funding for Customs and Border Patrol to improve operational effectiveness. And I note the President has wide authority and latitude to deploy these dollars where they should do the most good. This is the largest increase in border security funding in almost a decade. Domestically, this bill funds hundreds, if not thousands, of member priorities. We reached a bipartisan agreement on opioid funding, redirecting over $500 million to combat this epidemic affecting every district in the nation. We funded health care for minors, a key priority for many of our members. We secured the second consecutive $2 billion increase for the National Institutes of Health, the nation's lead biomedical research organization and a key driver of the hope of treating new diseases, saving countless lives, and incidentally driving down health care costs. We also secured an increase for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which will help enhance our readiness to combat pandemics and respond to public health crises. We increased funding for Gear Up and TRIO, 2 essential programs that help first-generation college students actually go to college, and increased funding for Head Start by $90 million. Every member of this House has a victory someplace in this bill. And this was done, Mr. Speaker, by cutting spending in other less essential areas and making tough choices. In the labor H provisions of this bill, for instance, we actually $2.8 billion less than President Obama requested and $1 billion less than we actually spent last year. Finally, and most importantly, this bill is the product of a successful bipartisan bicameral negotiation. This shows all of us that we have the ability for the President, the Republicans in the House and the Senate, and the Democrats in the House and the Senate to sit down and work together on important issues. I'm heartened by this success, and I believe it suggests our ability to work together in the future on other crucially important pieces of legislation like tax reform and infrastructure improvements. Mr. Speaker, I urge the support of the rule and the underlying legislation, and with that, I reserve the balance of my time.